Miss Corinne meets my gaze and nods down. Lee's hand, which he'd just used to wear Serby, and is now resting limp on his knee. Following her lead, I reach over to lay my hand on top of his. There's no pressure or grip, just a lingering reminder of my presence, that I'm here for him. It's enough to partially knock him out of whatever stupor he's fallen into and stare over to me, his expression one of bewilderment, like he totally forgot that I was here with the two of them. Kid, kid, now hang on a moment. Now what you doing calling this young gentleman here that? He's out. His sentence is interrupted by the bear lightly smacking the top of Lee's head with what looks to be a rolled up magazine that she pulled out of nowhere. It wasn't hard enough to her, but enough to leave Leigh reeling in disbelief. You're calling him, you're here calling Wallace that when all I see in front of me is two young men who are just starting their adult lives. You're both still kids to me. Don't be in such a rush to grow up. Both of us are left speechless as Miss Corinne unravels the magazine and places it on a small table next to her that's mostly concealed by her chair. Now, back to what you're here for. I'm assuming you know about what happened with Helena. After all, why would you be here otherwise? Yes, we know all about that. Well, as much as we can. The news reports on it were pretty scarce and detailed. They were. I tried asking for more, but they couldn't give me any. These poor young people had their lives snuffed out and no one knows why. I tried to get in contact with their parents, but I had no luck. They wouldn't talk to me. That leaves them out of the question. Not that I planned on trying to get in contact with them. There's something tasteless about trying to ask a parent about their dead child. I wouldn't want to ever put someone through that. We were hoping we could learn more about Mercy and Helena. Do you think you could tell us anything about them? They sounded really close for what I know. Miss Corinne just leans back and rolls her claws through the fur surrounding her chin. Her eyes are closed and her expressions giving nothing away, making it hard to tell if I've overstepped my boundaries. You don't have to if you don't want to. I understand that this is... No, it's okay. I'm just thinking back to the first day she arrived. It was only last year, but it felt much longer. What was he coming to help with? We get a lot of young people coming to help out. Since a lot of the kids were here due to homophobic or transphobic parents, a lot of the people who'd come help out were young queer students who had friends here. They help alongside some of the older adults. Well, some of our older kids. Leigh was very popular with the younger teens and kids. Most of them are still around, though not much longer for some. What do the volunteers do? They mostly just came around on weekends when there wasn't school and helped around with little things. Sometimes we organize little group activities, or they just help run things. Sunday was always cleanup day for most of us. A lot of the younger kids would cause a mess. I painted the fence more times than I can remember. We don't tend to get a lot of them, only a few high school kids every year. If that, a lot of time, I'm relying on the older kids to help out. But you had Mercy last year. Yeah, she and Helena would often come down to help out together. I'd see Mercedes every Saturday, but Helena would come every couple of weeks or so. Did any of Helena's other friends come too? Miss Corinne just shakes her head, and there's a sorrow in her voice, in her eyes. There's a sorrow in her eyes that makes me think that there's a bit more going on here than I thought. No, it was just her and Mercedes. No one else came. Eventually, Helena stopped coming too. I think the girls got into a fight, the poor things. A fight? Did something happen here? No, Helena just stopped coming and Mercedes seemed a lot sadder after that. I tried talking to her, but she wouldn't talk to me about it. I have a good idea what's happened, but I'd rather not say. You don't have to tell us. Lee's eye look over to me, and the message from them is clear. Let this go. I wasn't planning on pushing her on it anyway, but this just solidifies it. Thank you. I can tell you more about her as I knew her. However, she was a she was a lovely young girl, always so enthusiastic to help. Did she know anyone that we can talk to? The only people who came to help were those who knew someone here. No, she didn't know anyone. After all, she just moved here for college. When she arrived not a week after that new school semester started, I asked her how she found us. Do you know what she said? What? She just said that she heard about what I'd been doing and wanted to help. That's all. I believe her too. I never had any volunteers who had just heard about us before, but she had. Do you still believe her? Yes, I do. Now, I'm no expert on this situation, but it's clear there's something more to Mercy's story, and I wouldn't be surprised if Miss Corinne had an idea as to what that is as well. Whatever she's hiding is not for any malicious reasons. It must be something that she knew that Mercy wouldn't want people to know. So she's respecting her wishes. I have to respect that as well. Did you ever meet Helena personally? This time Leigh steps up to change the topic. It's strange to see Leigh taking such an active role in a conversation when there's people outside of Charlie and myself, but he's probably much closer to Corinne than he is to me. Yes, a couple of times, not as much as I'd like to though. I wish I tried harder to get to know her more. Maybe I would have noticed what went wrong. I wish I had given Mercy that one last shove. Give Mercy one last shove. I was getting there, dear. Hold your horses. Sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to rush you. Oh, don't call me ma'am. I already feel old as it is. No need to rub it in. Told you it's Bethany. I'm sorry, Bethany. Better. Despite what she wants, it's hard to imagine her as anything other than Miss Corinne, and I didn't even grow up calling her that like Leigh and Charlie did. The regal disposition she radiates makes you want to treat her with the respect that she deserves, even if it's some that she doesn't want. As I was saying before I was so adorably interrupted, Helena only ever came with Mercedes. She never visited by herself, and I don't think she got along with many of the kids that well. I don't think she disliked them or anything, but she just didn't have the interest or drive that her friend did. Not that I can blame her. I know when I was a teenager, I would have hated spending my free time doing charity work. But one day, Helena just stopped showing up. Mercedes wasn't quite herself after that. She wouldn't socialize with the kids as much as she used to. I tried asking her what's wrong, but she would just make up an excuse. Do you have any idea what actually happened? I think something bad happened between her and Helena. Something really bad. I said Helena never came by herself, but that isn't entirely true. She came along once, after this all happened. She said she was trying to find Mercedes and left after she didn't find her. Leigh and I looked at each other, our confused expressions mirroring each other. Just what happened between the two of them that Helena was actively trying to hunt Mercy down. Was he angry at her? She was upset, but I don't think she was angry. She looked confused and hurt. This was only a day or two after Mercedes started acting differently and coming home. So whatever happened between them must have been fresh. I'm sorry to ask this, but do you know how long this was before the incident? It's okay, dear. I'm not her mother. While this is tragic and I wish those two girls would still be here, but I got too many lost souls to be caught up on those two. The incident happened only a week afterwards. Just a week? Do you think this had anything to do with what caused it? The news said Mercedes slept with Helena's boyfriend. That lines up with how they were both acting. She felt guilty for betraying her friend. Do do you think this had anything to do with what caused it? The news said Mercedes slept with Helena's boyfriend. That lines up with how they were both acting. She felt guilty for betraying her friend, and Helena felt betrayed. When Miss Corrine just shakes her head. There's no doubt hesitation in her form whatsoever. I don't think so. Mercedes would talk a lot, and she always go on about how much she adored Helena, how much she didn't trust her boyfriend. I can't see her doing something like that. So you think it was something different? I know it was. I'm certain it was something Mercedes did, but I don't think she meant to hurt Helena. She thought too highly of her for that. I think she messed up and got scared. I don't think the girls ever talked. Never? Never. I approached her one afternoon before she left and most of the kids were busy. I asked her what was wrong between her and Helena. She tried to make some excuses, but I reassured her she didn't have to tell me what happened. She told me that she screwed everything up and that she was scared to talk to her. And I told her to give it some time for the both of them. It was the biggest mistake in my life. That's not fair. You didn't know what was going on. Well, you didn't know what was going to happen. This might not have solved anything. I don't know about that. When Helena came looking for her, she looked so desperate and alone. I don't know that girl well, but I think she truly had nobody at that time. It just, if she just had her best friend, maybe things would be different. Miss Corrine has long since given up maintaining eye contact with the two of us, opting to focus on the many photos of Dorian in the wall, taking care to make sure her glasses don't fall off. There's pain in her eyes, but also acceptance. It's the wisdom that comes from living a long life. I used to think Leigh had this same look, but now I can see he truly is younger than he acts. If you don't mind, dear, I think that's enough of this for one day. It's getting a little late, and I wanted to have a talk with Leigh, if that's possible. Leigh, who's gotten progressively quieter over the course of the conversation, perks up at the sound of his name. He looks to have been lost in thought just as much as the rest of us. I'll have to probe his head for what he thinks of all of this later. Of course, he's been more than helpful with all of this. He's given us a lot to think about. Do you want some privacy? Yes, please. Oh, don't look so nervous. I'm only checking in on how things are going. You never visit, and there's a lot to catch up on. I'm sorry. Oh, I told you, dear. I understand. Now, Wallace, scurry along. Go find Charlie. She'd be more than happy to give you a tour of the house. I want to thank you again for everything, both now and for what you've done for Leigh and his sister. Of course, how could I have left such a gentle soul out to dry? Leigh just huffs and folds his arms once again, the familiar pink stain returning to his ears and nose. She truly knows how to push his buttons in a way only a caregiver can. But for now, this is private between the two of them. I'll do what she says and find Charlie. Who knows? Maybe some people around here know something about Mercedes and Helena too. Bethany didn't waste a single second as well as closing the door, opted to take off her reading glasses and put them on the tiny table next to her. She'd always do this whenever she'd take one of us aside to talk. You never knew until it started whether or not she was scolding you or just giving you a friendly chat. Even after all these years, I could still feel that shiver of nervousness in my spine. I thought I'd gotten long past this point in my life, but being in here with her in this house that always smells old, it's like I've been sent back to high school all over again. But Bethany gives me that smile she always did when she was worried about you. I see it a lot whenever I return with some guy whose name I never knew. She never disapproved of scolding me for sleeping around, but I always felt guilty about letting her down. I've grown up and I'm making a life for myself and Charlie, but here I am, feeling like a child again. So, Ashley, sorry, I'm still getting used to this. Leigh, let's talk. We've got a lot to discuss. What do you want to discuss, Bethany? I don't think I'll ever get used to calling her that. I know her as Miss Corinne for a better part of my life. I don't even think I ever knew her first name. She was always just Miss Corinne to us. No need to be so serious of all the time. No need to be so serious all the time. You are always so stubborn to talk about yourself when others are around, and I can tell that you never admit anything around that boy. You're quite smitten with the boy. It's not like that. Oh, isn't it? So I asked Charlie if that's true. I bet you tell her all sorts of things about him. You never were able to hold yourself back when it comes to her. I don't even justify that with a response because we both know the answer to that. I've always been honest with Charlie as he knows more secrets about me than anyone in the world needs to know. He's just a kid. The eyebrows he raises tells me more than any words ever could, and I'm sent back to high school as he take me aside to scold me whenever I do something to make her worry. Mostly bringing very unsavory characters home to sleep with. And I see in her eyes that she's considering calling me out again because we both know that's just an excuse at this point, but it's true. Wallace is just a kid, and that would be irresponsible for me to act on anything, even if he is very cute. At least I hope it's true. There's times when he acts so naive about the world that it makes me want to hide him away from everything and keep him safe, but then there's times when he challenges my view of him and defies all my expectations. I don't know which side of him I like more, and that's more dangerous than any other thought I could have. While it's hard to deny that his soft-spoken demeanor isn't appealing, it's when he shows that fierceness underneath that makes my heart race in a way that I know is a completely bad idea. He's kind, but he's always willing to speak his mind. He's not afraid to say what he thinks, and he's even willing to stand up to me. Despite all the effort I put into making myself completely and utterly unopposable, he still walks up to me like he has nothing to fear from me. And he's right, but when he shows that strong spirit that's dying to crawl out, it makes me want to entice it and see where it goes. There's times where I wonder if he's even more dangerous than me. And those thoughts are the worst because they make me want to see more. It's hard to see him as just a kid whenever he does that, and there's a part of me that doesn't want to. The irresponsible voice in my heart that I thought died when I left high school is creeping its way back and stronger than ever. But I can't linger on these thoughts right now. Not when Bethany is watching me so intently. I wouldn't want her picking up anything that's running through my head. She probably has already. Are you doing okay, Graham? Says you're working hard. He always speaks highly of you, but he mentioned that he's worried you don't get out often. I'm fine. Despite how much I've grown over the last couple of years, I suddenly feel myself regressing back to that petulant teenager trying to act like I didn't just sneak out to a club with a fake ID again. I'm sorry. We're doing good. Thank you for everything you've done. Charlie's doing okay in school, and she's a great soccer. She wants to play professionally. Is that amazing? She's always was feisty. I expected her to do great things, but don't forget about yourself. You're working and attending college and taking care of your sister. That's a heavy burden. I'm glad you have a friend like Wallace. He seems sweet. He is. He always sees the best in people, even when he shouldn't. He certainly gives me more of a chance than I'm worth. I don't know why he is so interested in me. He gets along with Oscar like they're good friends, and he's got a lot in common with Lucas. But he's always gravitating towards me. I don't know why that is. I'm not sure if I want him hanging out with someone like Oscar, but they're certainly better matched than the two of us are. I must be boring by comparison. You got that look on your face, Ashley. Well, look. That look when you start thinking bad about yourself. We're over this. Charlie doesn't blame you for anything that happened in that house. It was your fault. It's not about her. That wasn't the response she had been expecting, and if I'm being honest with myself, I hadn't really expected that answer either. It's water. I'm not sure I'm ready to trade yet. We still look, and I'm trying to silently convey that I don't want to talk about this topic yet. I've never been one to stray away from tough talks, but this isn't like that. This is something I don't want to face yet. Whatever. But with all the small talk out of the way, there's only the topic that we've both been avoiding since I walked into this house. She mentioned it once, but I can tell she didn't want to get into it with Wallace around. I wish he was still here. He's got such a large presence with someone so small. It makes me want to sit up straighter and hold my chin up despite my tendencies for a slouching, not giving a fuck attitude. The kids still miss you. Evan and Jeremy left to go stay in an apartment together. Some of the younger ones kept asking about where you went. They'd love to see you again. Evan and Jeremy, they've left already. They hadn't even started high school when I finished. How are the kids? They're doing well. They're always sneaking out, but you know how teenagers are these days. She gives me a knowing look, and I don't give her a response, because what can I say? There was rarely a night when I wasn't sneaking out to some hookup or going to a club. Shit, I was such a mess. But thinking about to yesterday, it's hard to not miss some of it. The awful hangovers and city drinks can stay in the past, but I can't deny it wasn't enjoyable wearing some of my old things again. I must look like a stranger to her now. But not matter how much, but no matter how much I miss some of it, there's always a huge smudge that looms over every positive memory, clouding into it something awful. You know why? You know why I haven't come back. You know why I haven't come back. There's too many bad memories. I know, for Charlie, right? Listen out. She always does this. Whenever we start talking about him, she always gives me a way to escape. But I can't keep being that kid who pretended it didn't happen. No. There's an admission, one that I should have made to her a long time ago. But it's the pain in her eyes that brings back the memories of showing up at her house covered in bruises or worse. She never knew if it was from home or from the streets. Both could be cruel. Has he come looking for us? Even though we never told Father where we were going, he would have known. There's been too many instances of the cops having to take me to the shelter for them to not alert my father. But her gaze is hardened in a way that makes me sit up straighter and kind, because he's going to say something harsh, but she knows I can handle it. Never. I've never heard nor seen anything from him, not once. It still hurt that our father completely abandoned us after we left and didn't even attempt to find us. Others might find it sad, but to me, this is the best answer I could have hoped for. He didn't care. He didn't care about either of us, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The less of that man in my life, the better. There's no mending that bridge. He torched it a long time ago. I'll come around and see the kids more. Help out when I can. I know Charlie will want to come, and it will look good on her college application too. Wallace will Leigh, her tone's even harder than before. It's clear this isn't Bethany anymore. This is Miss Queen. Yes, ma'am. Why are you at college? What are you hoping for? The sudden question leaves me confused, but the serious look on her face tells me this isn't anything to joke about. She still has that look in her eye that reminds me so much of my mother that it burns. I'm trying to get a degree so I can get a higher paying job. I'll be able to support Charlie in. What about your current job? What could you what could do more than find what could do more than fine with that? She deserves more than just the occasional pocket money. We've been saving for years, for fuck's sake, and she's barely got anything. What happens is what happens if something happens with she deserves more than just the occasional pocket money. We've been saving for years, for fuck's sake, and she's barely got anything. What happens if something happens to me? What about you? Now, both our voices are raised, and I'm glad the kids are still playing outside. No child deserves to hear their parental figure screaming in the room next to them. What about me? Don't you get to have some happiness? Don't you get to do what you want? Jesus Christ, Leigh, you're nearly 24, and when was the last time you did something that wasn't for the sake of that little girl? My mind goes back to yesterday, to seeing Wallace looking so shaken that a single breeze might cause him to fall apart. The thought of him going home alone that day, looking pale enough that he might vomit any second and sleeping alone in a college dorm, just as city as my apartment. The idea of that was worse than anything that hallucination or dreams or whatever the fuck it was could produce. I had cradled him in my arms all night if I could. Fuck, I basically did. She could sense my hesitation and her expression simmers down into only a scowl. She glances at the door like she can read my mind, and I know she's figured it out. But she doesn't say anything because doing it for him is just as bad as doing it for her. Leigh, do you enjoy taking care of the children here? Once again, a change of topic leaves me reeling, and I'm nearly stumbling over my words, trying to keep up with this woman every day. She smiles at that, and there's a fierceness to her eyes that tells me she's decided on something, and I have a feeling I'm not going to like it. I'm planning on retiring soon. These old bones can only take care of this many kids by herself for so long. You're leaving? What will happen to the shelter, to the kids? Shush, child. I'm not closing the shelter, nor am I leaving. I'm just stepping down from being the only one in charge. I want to spend my time for myself more. You should leave to try it. But what will happen? I'm going to look for someone who can take over for me. I was hoping it could be you. What? Me? But you wouldn't have to live here, nor would you have to spend all of your time here. I just need someone who can handle. Yes! You wouldn't have to live here, nor would you have to spend all of your time here. I just need someone who can handle the house during the day. I promise it will pay generously. I don't want any handouts. Oh gosh, no. There won't be any handouts here. You've taken care of these kids before. You know plenty that this isn't just a simple babysitting job. Just trying to get the teenagers to go to school is hard enough. She's right about that. Despite there being 7 other teenage students living with us, I was only one who kept going to school, and only because I needed to get the education to support Charlie. Even Vicky was already dropped out when I brought him here. When I brought him there, he never went back either. Will you want me? Why will you want me? Truly, because I know how you are around those boys and girls, even the older ones. It was hard work, but you were proud. I know you love being there for those kids, and I know you would hate any job that a degree would get you. That's not true. She wishes over, and I flinch despite my best efforts not to. It's just a slight movement, barely noticeable to the eye, but it might as well have been a car crash with how loud it felt. Her eyes immediately soften, and she continues to extend her hand, leaving it just inches from my cheek, waiting for me to let her know it's okay for her to touch me. She already checked whenever things got heated between us. I always appreciated that. With a small nod from me, she cups my face and her long claws comb through my fur, tickling the sensitive skin underneath it. You're always doing everything for her, but have you ever asked her what she wanted? You know she'd never want you to put yourself into a job you hated just for her. I know, but what do you want me to do? Drop out of college after all the work we did just to get me accepted? Of course not. I wouldn't employ you if you didn't have a degree. I wouldn't let just anyone take care of my babies. Her soft laugh is enough to break all the tension between us, but that only leaves the heavy weight of what she's offering, and it's heavy. I couldn't. Take your time, dear. Don't decide now. You have years ahead of you, but I want you to follow your heart more. You're so lost in here. She taps my skull with her claw, fouled, the carefully fouled tips just blunt enough for it to only bring emphasis to her words. There you forget about here. Her hand trails down to my chest, hovering over my beating heart, one that only beginning to calm down after our exchange. Don't deny yourself there. You're at college, a time for discovery. I'm 23. I've discovered myself plenty. Oh, child, you're young. There's always time to discover more. Don't let this offer haunt you. Keep it in the back of your mind and focus on the days ahead. Have fun. Go take that nice boy on a date one night and spend time taking care of yourself. I don't even deny what she implied about me, and while it's because it would only be disingenuous and it insults the bond Bethany and I have. Okay. Promise me? I promise. Her whole face broadens and she gives my cheek a playful slap and pinch before leaning back on her chair. She looks more proud of herself than she did when she managed to get me into Everett University. And that's saying something. She wouldn't stop dancing around the place. She tripped over poor Timmy. The poor kid was crying for hours. I had to sleep in bed with him that night just to calm him down. We've been trying so hard to get me into Everwinter University. I've never been the brightest tool in the shed, and I can't study to save my hide, but Bethany would spend whatever time she could to help me pass my exams. The interviewers weren't ashamed to tell me that I barely scraped by, and it was only due to my circumstances, some very good letters of recommendations, and the large amount of community service I did at the shelter. Bethany even managed to wrangle me a scholarship. It was tough work, but she managed to scout out a small one for me, a small one for helping those in fortunate circumstances. Bethany even managed to wrangle me a scholarship. It was tough work, but she managed to scout out a small one for helping those in unfortunate circumstances. It helps with the bills. That alongside work at the garage is enough to pay off rent and food without dipping into my savings, but barely. If I miss any hours, I have to make up the money myself. I honestly don't know what I did to deserve this woman's help. It's times like this that I wonder if my mother was right and there is a God. But then I remember, and then and then I remember it. I think I remember, but then I remember everything else, and that thought pisses off. It pisses me off. You're daydreaming about him? He's rather cute. I wouldn't expect him to be your type, though. You always brought home some of the roughest boys. They were bad news, mostly. I wasn't, just thinking about the past. Being here does that. I can't imagine. Good memories, I hope. Good memories. Excellent. Now score away and find your little friend. I need to go start on dinner soon. There's a lot of mouths to feed and only so much time to do it. She gets off her seat and begins shooing me away like I'm some unwanted animal that snuck into her house, except I know she treats them just as nicely as her kids. We can stay and help if you need. Nonsense, if you want to come back and help out another day, I'm sure we can sort out something, but for tonight, I want you to do what I told you. Enjoy yourself. Go hang out with friends. I bet you haven't gone to a club in a while. She opens the door to the entrance hall. It's empty aside from the chatter of teenagers upstairs and the scurrying cries of the kids running around outside, most of which I've never seen before. You hate it when I went to clubs. I hated that you snuck out to them, got drunk, and then slept with guys old enough to be your father. You were only 16. There's no bitterness in her words, but it doesn't help the sinking feeling of guilt in my chest. I've done a lot of dumb shit, and everyone else paid the consequences. All I can do is hang my head and say, but she brings her plump fingers to my chin, lifting it until my head is being held up high. It's what she always did whenever I started to brood. She never let me sink into myself. The smile she wears and the look of pride on her face makes it impossible to stay sad. She deserves better than that for me. Everyone does. You always look so happy at them. I followed you once. Whenever you were here, you were kind, but you were also guarded. You've been through so much and I know you needed space. She brings her arm around my back, guiding me through the door as we walk towards the kitchen on the other side of the hall. But when you're there, you're so full of life in a way I never see on you otherwise. I like to see that side of you more. I don't have the Don't say you don't have time. You don't have to be at Charlie's beck and call every day. If anything, that girl deserves some space. I can't imagine how suffocated she feels. There's a surge of shock and anger at her words that must be plastered across my face if her raised eyebrows are any indication. Don't give me that look. We both know that girl always hates it whenever you treat her like some delicate flower. Now you promise to focus more on yourself, correct? Yes. Good. Now I got to get started on dinner, and no, you can't help. Go find Wallace and enjoy yourself. Have fun, Ashley. You're at college, you're young. She walks off without giving me any time to respond, or even a hint where they might be. Not that I really need it. I have a good idea of where they'd be. Charlie probably gave Wallace a tour, would be hanging out with Juliet and Eve by now. If those two are anything like they were 5 years ago, they'd be out back. Walking through these halls again is like taking a trip down memory lane. I haven't been to this place in years, but it feels like just yesterday I was nursing a hangover on a Saturday morning while getting up to help prepare breakfast. There's no one roaming through the halls, but that's not unusual. All the young kids are playing outside or with their friends, and the older ones are either home around 5 or in their rooms. The backyard is just as massive as I remember, easily able to handle groups of children with way too much energy. I didn't spend much time back here unless I was supervising or helping out, but it's familiar all the same. Wallace is underneath the apple tree, not too far from the door alongside Charlie, Juliet, and Eve. Charlie looks to be in total control of the conversation and is dragging Wallace into an awkward introduction. I'm about to just lean against the door and watch when I catch his eye and flashes me that wonderful smile that I can't help but return. But his eyes are filled with a level of concern that sends me for a loop. That confusing mess of emotions bubbles inside my chest, and now left trying to scramble together any kind of coherency. I know Charlie would kick my ass as he knew what I was thinking. Wallace's smile always contains a level of naivety that makes me want to whip him away from everyone else and shelter him from the world that's much harsher than he knows. To protect this kid before that part of him is crushed. I could feel my emotions swirling in a tornado, and I know I have to get him, and I know I have to get them under control before anyone sees what's wrong. To call this place a house feels like an understatement of the century. The place is like a small mansion. Charlie hadn't been kidding when he said this place was stacked. They mentioned an indoor water room earlier, and while the very small hot tub-sized pool was already pretty amazing, the rest of the house held up just as well. And apparently the attic had been renovated into having the entire ceiling being made of reinforced glass. It's so cold-blooded species can sunbathe during the day and can stargaze at night. It sounded amazing, though. I refused her offer to sew me herself. It had been an awkward combination of excuses, but eventually she just gave up. How could I explain that attics make me want to jump out of the nearest window or make me feel nauseous enough to nearly lose my lunch? Just thinking about being up there had me queasy already. Thankfully, Charlie didn't seem to care that much and was more than willing to move on to the next room. It wasn't like she was short on options. Eventually, it led to the backyard where it felt like a dozen kids were running about, mostly surrounding the few teenagers who were playing around with them. They didn't last long before scattering around the front or into the house, allowing Charlie to introduce me to two girls around her age. Julia and Eve weren't what I expected. Maybe it was my own misconceptions about this place, but Juliet didn't feel like someone who was forced to live in a shelter. She was more than happy to be here and loved the place. Not that I could blame her. This place is amazing, even if it does sound like it gets pretty cramped at times. It's no wonder she gets along so well with Charlie. If Charlie is a spark, then Juliet is a fireball. I thought she was going to fight me when the way she was sizing me up when we approached her. It wasn't helped when she got into a roughhousing session with one of the older boys before he left. If they didn't end up laughing and side hugging afterwards, I would have assumed the fight was real. E by comparison is a lot more my speed. Unlike the overwhelming balls of energy that make up Juliet and Charlie, she's a lot gentler and down to earth. She might be a little too affectionate, though. When we approached them to talk, she immediately gave Charlie a hug, and before I could process what was happening, gave me one as well. It left me stunned enough that it sent Juliet and Charlie to a laughing fit that lasted nearly a full minute, much to Eve's embarrassment, though she took it in good grace when Juliet gave her a kiss on the cheek. Not that I was able to talk to them much. Charlie only did a brief introduction before going into a long catching up session that left me feeling like a third wheel. Eve tried her best to keep me involved before giving up when Juliet and Charlie took firm hold over the conversation. She would have been left out as well if it wasn't for Juliet constantly talking about her. I was more than ecstatic when Leigh appeared in the front door, hoping he might come over and save me from this conversation, but he just stood there and watched. No one else knows him, and I get the feeling he doesn't want them to. This is Charlie's moment to meet up with friends he hasn't been in contact with for a long time. Leigh didn't want to come here, and while I don't know why, I can't exactly press him for answers. This sounded like a pretty tough time in his life. I'm just glad he's doing better for himself, even if he doesn't tweet himself enough. The two of them are still going at it like they could for hours, and I glance over at Leigh, hoping that maybe he'll notice my silent pleas for help that no one but Eve has noticed so far. Except I don't see Leigh washing up anymore. Instead, his face is in his hand, and he looks to be breathing heavily. It's a vulnerability that I've never seen on him. I excuse myself from the group without so much as a simple dismissive grunt from Charlie, and I walk over to Leigh. His ears twitch as he hears my approach, and he recomposes himself as much as he can without it being too blatant. It doesn't work as well as he hoped. I think I can see damp fur around his eyes, and that's enough cause for concern. I didn't think I'd ever see Leigh cry. Not that I did, but it's close enough. Oh, you're right? Did something happen? He opens his mouth, but nothing comes out, and I can tell he's trying to figure out some excuse or way to play this off. Right now, he looks younger than I've ever seen him before. Sometimes it's easy to forget that he's only a few years older than me. Eventually, he manages to repair his composure, but he doesn't make any attempt to play off what happened. We both know that I'd seen it. Yeah, I'm fine. Just got lost in my head. It's nothing to worry about, kid. This place holds a lot of memories. We can go, if you like. I'm sure Charlie wouldn't mind. He goes to refuse, but something stops him. His nose scrunches up and his brow furrows as some thoughts I'm not privy to run through his head. Yeah, I like that. I'll go tell Charlie. Wait, she'll be fine on her own. She hasn't seen these two for ages, and that's my fault. I know she won't stay out too long. My eyebrows shoot to my head, and I don't even bother to hide my sockets enough that Leigh looks almost offended by it, but I can't be blamed for that. Leigh's protectiveness of his sister is one of the most consistent things I've ever seen. I couldn't imagine him letting her walk around town by herself, especially when it would get dark in a few hours. What? I wasn't expecting. She'll just get annoyed and get pissy. She's nearly an adult and deserves some space. Did something happen with Miss Corinne? He grows quiet for a moment. I think he isn't going to answer, but he does, and his body almost looks relaxed as he does. The whole conversation must be heavier than I thought. Yes, he told me to lay off of her and take care of myself more. I'm fucked off, but she's right. Charlie's growing older, but she'll always be my sister. I can try a little harder. I think she'll appreciate that. He just shrugs. Uncertainty clouding his expression. It's obvious that this isn't something he's entirely comfortable with, but I think it's good progress. I already know Charlie's going to love the space. I doubt it's going to last long, but it's progress. We head back through the house and we're about to leave, but I'm stopped by Miss Corinne at the front door. She gives me her number and tells me to get in contact if I'm in any trouble and need a place to stay. It's nice to know that if things go back, I have someone I can rely on, though I doubt Leigh would turn me away if I needed to stay with him either. Though she did say something weird about me having a good time before shooting Leigh a glance that clearly meant something if the glare he gave in return is any indication. He doesn't elaborate after we leave, despite my attempts to prod him, and I have to give up, or else I'd likely just annoy him. Whatever they talked about between them must have been very personal. We're halfway back towards campus, but neither of us said much. Leigh was mulling over whatever he talked to Miss Gawain about while I was in stuck in thought about what she told us. It's clear something more was happening between Mercy and Helena for the both of them to be acting the way they were. So, what do you think about the whole Mercy situation? What about it? Don't you think that's a bit strange that Mercy and Helena went from best friends to not speaking? Sometimes friends fight, it happens. I know that, but this just felt a little more important, especially the timing of it all. Don't you think? Suddenly, an arm grabs me, and I'm lurched to a stop with a yelp of surprise. His eyes dart to his hand, clutching my arm, and lets go, nearly jumping back as if he was burned. Listen, kid, I know things are pretty intense with whatever happened yesterday, but I think you've been letting this get to you too much. I know you guys don't think anything really happened, but I truly think there's something weird going on. This time he hesitates, and there's an uncertainty to his actions that stands out like a sore thumb. It's not too difficult to figure out what that's about. Do you think something happened too? He lets out a sigh and rubs his hand over his face. This isn't the relieving break from everything that both of us were hoping for. I think something happened, but I don't want you stressing about it anyway. It's not worth it. But I want to know. We found that page and I haven't checked in the diary for it yet. I really don't like you reading that thing, kid. It's fucking with your head. Those kinds of nightmares don't just come from nowhere, trust me. But what if there's something in there that can help us figure out what's going on with Helena? It might bring Miss Gawain some peace too. It isn't worth it. Can we just check to see about that missing page I found? That's all I want to see right now, I promise. If we do that, will you be willing to take a break from it? I'm worried about you. Okay, I will. Good, I can settle for that. With a nod, we continue on our way, changing directions to head toward my apartment instead. There's a tension between us, but it feels more like a looming sense of dread than anything else. Once I can confirm this missing page is still gone, we can finally chalk everything up to being a dream and move on to anything else. Leigh makes no comment as we walk into my apartment, not making a single note about the place despite scanning his eyes over the entire building like he was hunting for signs of danger. We walk over to my nightstand before realizing something, smacking my head at my bout of stupidity. I forgot the diary. I must have left it at your place. I don't even remember grabbing it last night. He sighs and reaches into his jacket, pulling out the familiar purple cover that has been the source of all my dread and curiosity. He doesn't look too pleased to hand it over. I found it in our kitchen, so unless it followed you back on its own, you must have put it there. I took it when I went to work to keep you from reading it. But as long as you promise to not read it tonight, I'll give it to you. Sound fair, kid? Yeah, I don't think I can handle reading it tonight anyway. Things were already morbid enough with Miss Corinne. I reach out and grab it, but he lifts it out of my reach, staring at me with firm eyes that hold way too much care and worry to be intimidating. We're just checking that page. No other shit, okay? We'll talk about it with everyone else on Monday. I understand. He sits on the seat next to the desk and holds out the diary to me, which I swiftly grab and sit at the edge of my bed as closely as I can manage. I might be willing to check this out, but this diary has been giving me nothing but vivid nightmares these last few nights. I'd rather not be alone, even if I'm just checking it. It takes nearly a minute of flipping through the book to find where we had last ended the remaining half of an entry to Elena's first date with Conrad. There are no signs of anything different about it. No strange additions, no new pages, just the same entry with a torn page right before it. Not satisfied, I flip a couple of pages ahead. After all, the entry must have been after where we had ended. Helena was already dating Conrad in it. Leigh looks about ready to stop me as I teeter close to breaking our agreement when I spot it, making my heart sink. Only 3 pages later, it's right there. Helena's little message to her mother about Mercy's birthday and strange behavior. There are no signs that the page had been torn out or reattached. It's as if it had been there the whole time. This is it. You don't look happy. How's it here? I saw it in my dream, but it's here. What's going on? Calm down, kid. Think about this. You probably just read ahead and saw this. You mentioned you were pretty far on Tuesday. Maybe you just read this and forgot about it. I suppose. Look. He moves to come to sit next to me, hesitating for a moment before placing a hand on my head. He doesn't pat or rub or ruffle my hair. He just stays there, giving me his presence. There's nothing to worry about. No monster coming to get you. No evil diary trying to ruin your life. All this is getting to your head. What should I do then? Just relax and take care of yourself. That's all any of us can do, alright? Yeah, okay. Good. Do you want me to stay tonight? I could get Charlie to go stay with a friend if you need me. No, I'll be fine. I think I just need to take a shower and watch some videos. Relax a little, like you said. That's better. This time he does ruffle my head, leading me to slap his arm away as we both laugh. We stay there a little while longer, ignoring the obvious elephant in the room as the diary lay sitting on the desk. Eventually he gets up to leave but hesitates at the door. I expected him to say something back to me, but he just stands there deep in thought. What's going on? Nothing really. Just thinking about something Miss Corinne said to me. A bunch of bullshit, if you ask me. She didn't seem like that kind of person. I think she really cares. That just lulls him into another silence, when it takes significantly longer, nearly a full minute, where I almost consider prodding him again, but decide it'll be best to let him have the initiative. Do you want to go out tomorrow night? Out? Yeah, just to have some fun and say fuck it to all this shit with a diary with Helena. Just something for us. I think I'd like that. Great. For the first time since we got to the shelter, Leigh looks genuinely excited about something. This might be the first time I've ever seen him light up like that. He leaves shortly enough, but I don't feel lonely. I just feel a lot of anticipation for what's to come. I'm left to my devices. I stay true to my word and just have a humble shower before grabbing some food and watching some videos. It is the most glamorous, but it's distracting. Eventually I remember that I haven't checked my phone all day, and I find a flood of messages from everyone that I slowly reply to, but the one that truly catches my eye is the one from Lily. Thanks for the talk today. I'll swing by tomorrow and we can have some fun, maybe invite the others. You need a distraction from everything I've dumped on you. I quickly type back a reply, hoping to catch her before she makes any serious commitments. I have plans tomorrow with Leigh. Oh, I know. Don't worry, you'll be in time for your little date. He called me for some advice and word got around fast. He called it a date? Well, no, but who knows how the night might end up. Be ready for anything. I'll be there around lunch. Sounds good. It's not long before it gets late enough to get some rest. I've never been one to avoid sleeping, but all these nightmares have been making me nervous. Having more on top of my usual fare isn't something I'm excited about. I just lay back and try to focus on my assignment for tomorrow, hoping that can quell any night terrors coming my way. So here. I got to meet Miss Corinne, even if she didn't have a sprite. But anyway, so I got to meet her, and she's very important in Leigh's life. And she's kind of sassy, but she's very nice, and she gave everybody a bear hug. She was a bear, so yeah, she can do that. And she knew Helena, but she didn't really know what was going on between her and Mercedes, I believe her name is, and what was going on with Conrad. She wasn't too much knowledgeable about that, but she also knew there was something going on between the two of them. So I believe it might have something to do with Conrad, while Helena and Mercedes were there was something going on between the two of them. It had something to do with Conrad. Anyway, so Kareem wanted a private talk with Leigh and asked Wallace if he could leave so she can have a private talk with Leigh. So Wallace left, and Kareem basically told Wallace that he needs to start thinking about himself for once. Instead of only thinking about his sister, because he's done everything he's done for years now has been for his sister. Right? He's done nothing for himself. But Miss Corinne, I forgot her first name. She preferred to be called by her first name, but I forgot her first name. But I was called Miss Corinne. But Miss Corinne wanted Leigh to focus on himself. Leigh didn't really agree with her, but after more convincing, Leigh agreed to be more about himself now. You know, plus Charlie, she's getting older. She's almost adult now. I mean, it's great that he cares about his sister, and he went through a lot of sacrifices for his sister, and he's a lot better than a lot of parents out there. In my view, he's way better, despite all the adversaries he had to, well, despite all the adversities and the trouble he had to go through. But Miss Corinne told him that he needs to start thinking about himself and turn his sister loose a little bit. So hopefully he'll follow Miss Corinne's advice. And she also wants him to take over the orphanage because he's planning on retiring soon. And that was a shock to Leigh. So personally, I think he can do it. I think he can take care of the orphanage. I mean, like, he is very dedicated to his sister. If he has that much dedication, or a large portion of that dedication, he'll be successful in running the orphanage. But it's something he got to think about over time. All right, so this episode also shows how much he cares about Wallace, because he kind of hid that page from Wallace so he wouldn't read it, because he's been having nightmares with this whole Helena Conrad quagmire, if I call it that. So it shows how much he's really cared about Wallace over the days he's known him. That he would keep that page away from Wallace because Wallace would read it. So yeah, so we'll continue with Violent Memoir next time. Thank you all very much for watching. Bye.